My friend, do not overlook the moment you find yourself in. This very message, this precise whisper of truth entering your awareness, was not sent by chance. It is the divine echo of your own inner cry, answered. For all that you behold, though it appears without, began within. Consciousness is the only reality, and this message has arrived in your awareness as a reflection of a deeper knowing within you. It is the universe confirming what you already knew in spirit, that your desire is fulfilled. You may ask, how do I know? Because you are hearing these words. That which you seek is already yours, and this moment, this encounter, is your confirmation. The outer world is but a mirror of your inner assumptions. When the assumption changes, the mirror reflects anew. Imagination is not idle daydreaming. It is the creative power of the infinite within you. The world bends to its image. Whatever you assume with feeling and persistence becomes clothed in the garments of form. So I urge you, act as if this very moment has been orchestrated across time and space as the announcement of your answered prayer, because it has. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you enter the state where miracles become mundane. You are not trying to make it happen. You are allowing what is to unfold. Let your thoughts dwell in the state of the fulfilled desire. Let your speech declare the promise is kept. Let your walk reflect the confidence of one who already possesses, because you do. What you feel to be true, your subconscious accepts without question, and it will outpicture itself as your world. Your only task is to live from that place, not merely in hope, but in certainty. There is nothing to strive for. You are not striving, you are remembering. You are stepping into alignment with what has already been finished. And this message, it is your sign. It is the golden seal of confirmation from the unseen. It is the whisper of the infinite saying, yes, it is yours. Let the old man die. Let the former things pass away. Do not look to appearances. Look within. Feel deeply, believe boldly, and persist faithfully. Because the truth is, what you now dare to imagine and faithfully assume must come into being. So act as if the entire universe conspired to place these words before your eyes, because it did. And that is your confirmation. Consciousness is the only reality. Before a single thing appears in the outer world, it must first be conceived, nurtured, and accepted within the mind. Every object, every event, every circumstance in your life is the product of your consciousness. It is not the world that determines your state. It is your state that molds and impresses itself upon the world. Everything you see, touch, or experience began as a seed in the fertile ground of thought. And not just any thought, but a thought accepted as true, a feeling embraced as real, a vision held with conviction. This is not merely philosophy. It is the eternal law. You move through life not as a passive recipient of fate, but as the creative cause behind every effect. Your awareness of being, your self-perception, your assumptions, these are the instruments by which reality is shaped. If you assume lack, the world confirms lack. If you assume love, joy, success, the world cannot help but yield the likeness of those assumptions. The world is a mirror, and the substance it reflects is the inner movement of your own mind. Look around you. What you see is not something imposed from without. It is a picture of your own sustained beliefs. Even the parts of life you feel you did not choose are still yours by virtue of subconscious acceptance. The outer is always the servant of the inner, and the inner, when rightly understood, is not limited by the past, nor bound by appearances. There is no circumstance so fixed that consciousness cannot transform it. But what is seen is transient. What is unseen, what is felt, what is imagined, that is eternal and powerful beyond measure. If you wish to change your world, you must not fight the shadow. You must change the light's source. You must go to the root, the assumption held in consciousness. You do not beg reality to shift. You assume the shift within, and reality bends to your command, not because you forced it, but because you knew it. You did not need to see proof first. You became the proof. The law requires no external permission. It only requires internal conviction. And conviction springs not from effort, but from identification. When you identify yourself with the state desired, when you feel it as real and dwell in it, the world cannot help but catch up to your inner claim. This is not imagination in the weak sense, but imagination as the divine creative act. The same power that forms galaxies and births suns dwells in your awareness of being. It is always creating. The only question is, what are you allowing it to create through you? What state are you animating with your focus, your emotion, your attention? Because whatever you accept as real in your mind, whatever you embody in thought, must express itself outwardly in time. That is the law. That is the secret. That is the mystery. This message is not a coincidence. The very fact that you are hearing these words in this moment, at this exact point in your journey, is a signpost from within, a subtle confirmation that your desire has already been acknowledged by the deeper currents of your being. Nothing in this universe moves without purpose. No encounter is accidental, and no message reaches you without first being summoned by the state you occupy. Long before these words reached your ears, a stirring began in your heart. A desire was formed, a yearning took shape, a silent prayer was uttered, not always with lips, but with the deeper language of feeling. That inner movement sent out a signal, a vibration that drew this message into your path. The outer world, though it seems random, is always echoing your internal world. What appears as chance is often the most deliberate design. You may think you stumbled across this at the right time, but the truth is, time itself bent to meet you here. There is a divine order at work, responding to the assumptions you've held, the truths you've dared to entertain, the new state you've begun to embody. This message is a mirror, reflecting your shift. It is not here to convince you. It is here because you are already convinced. Whether fully consciously, somewhere within, you've begun to believe in the reality of your desire. And this is the echo. The universe is not outside of you, it is within you, responding to the signals of your consciousness. And when a man truly begins to change his inner conversation, his outer world must rearrange to match it. This message is part of that rearrangement. You called it forth, not with desperation, not with effort, but with assumption, with feeling, with the silent knowing that something is moving, something is coming, something has already arrived. To the mind rooted in logic, such a message might seem trivial or coincidental, but to the awakened soul, it is a divine confirmation dressed in the ordinary. The voice of the infinite often whispers through the most familiar sounds, hides in the most common places, and shows up in the words that speak directly to your current state. If you look back, you may see a pattern. Messages appearing just when you needed them, insight arriving just before the shift, confirmation emerging just after you dared to assume. And now, here it is again, not because you're waiting for proof, but because proof always follows the internal claim. The world is showing you what you already chose to believe. Imagination creates reality. It is not a fanciful escape from the world. It is the foundation of the world itself. Every form, every circumstance, every relationship, every structure you experience began as an imaginal act. Long before it wore the clothes of the physical, it existed in the invisible realm of consciousness, shaped and animated by thought, infused with feeling. What you imagine with conviction, what you accept as real within, becomes the pattern for what must eventually unfold without. This is not metaphor, but spiritual law. The inner world is the cause. The outer world is its obedient effect. You are not a victim of what is. You are the creator of what is. The images you hold persistently in your mind, especially those accompanied by emotion and belief, impress themselves upon the subconscious, and the subconscious, without argument or resistance, sets the process in motion for their embodiment. It does not choose good or bad. It simply expresses what it is given. To imagine is to create, not someday, but now. Every moment you are imagining something, whether consciously or not, and that imagination is setting events into motion. Most people believe only what they can see, but the one who knows this truth believes in what he chooses to imagine, and thereby causes it to be seen. Reality does not come first. Imagination comes first, and reality follows its direction. There is no limit to this power except the limit one places on their own belief. If you can imagine something clearly, with depth, with emotion, and dwell in that state as though it were already so, then the outer world is compelled to mirror it. It may come by ways you could never predict, through channels you did not plan, but it will come. Because imagination is not a private thing. It is the divine creative force within you. It is your direct line to creation, your sacred tool of transformation. Every invention, every masterpiece, every revolution began first in the unseen. The world you see around you now is the residue of countless imaginal acts, some conscious, many unconscious. But you, as a conscious creator, have the privilege and responsibility to take hold of this power and use it deliberately. When you imagine lovingly, faithfully, consistently, you plant seeds in the unseen that must, in due season, bloom in the seen. This is why it matters what you dwell on, what pictures you entertain, what inner dialogues you allow to repeat. The imagination is always creating, not one day, not when you try hard enough, but always. The question is never whether it works. The question is whether you are using it consciously or carelessly. Because what you see today was shaped by what you imagined yesterday. And what you imagine today is the blueprint of what you will live tomorrow. Your assumption is the bridge. It is the unseen link between your present experience and the fulfillment of your desire. Nothing more is required than a deep, living assumption of the thing hoped for. Assumption is not mere wishing, nor is it vague hope. It is the quiet but firm conviction that what you have imagined is already true, already accomplished, already yours. The moment you assume a state to be real, you enter into union with it, and from that union, the outer world begins to respond. Everything in your world moves in accordance with the state you occupy. You may believe you are waiting for something to happen, for a door to open, for a sign to appear, but the truth is the bridge is already forming the moment you shift your assumption. It may not be visible to the eye, but it is active, alive, and unfolding beneath the surface of what seems to be. The assumption becomes a magnetic force, drawing to you all that is required for its manifestation. People, events, conversations, opportunities, all begin to align themselves without conscious effort on your part. The assumption carries its own intelligence, its own order, and it draws the path by which fulfillment is made manifest. It does not matter how impossible the desire may seem or how contradictory the facts. The world of fact bends to the power of sustained assumption. It is not your job to determine the how. Your work is to assume the end, to dwell in the feeling of its reality, to live inwardly from the place where it is already so. And from that place, the bridge begins to build itself. You may walk it without knowing, guided by what feels like coincidence, chance, or sudden inspiration. But all of it is movement, born of your inward state. There is no one to convince, nothing to chase, no condition that must change first. The only condition that must change is within you. The moment you assume a new identity, a new outcome, a new reality, you step onto the invisible bridge. It is not about forcing or pretending. It is about resting in the truth of what you have already received. To assume is to claim possession. It is to make real in consciousness what the world has not yet caught up to. Even when it appears nothing is happening, everything is happening. The bridge may carry you through strange territory, through events that seem unrelated or even contrary, but they are part of the path. The assumption governs the journey, even when you cannot see where it leads. What matters is that you persist, not in effort, but in the inner knowing. To change your assumption is to change your direction, and every direction leads to its own destination. Feeling is the secret language of the divine. It is the invisible current that moves between the seen and the unseen, the inner whisper that translates desire into manifestation. Words may be spoken aloud, thoughts may be repeated endlessly, but it is feeling that impresses itself upon the fabric of reality. It is through feeling that you speak to the deeper mind, to the creative power that shapes your world, to that unseen presence that responds not to words, but to vibration. Feeling is not emotion alone. It is deeper. It is the tone of belief. It is the atmosphere of conviction. It is the inner climate that you carry, often silently, as you move through the world. And what you feel deeply, consistently, and with a sense of truth is what is returned to you in form. The divine responds to that signal, not to pleading, not to ritual, but to the felt reality of your inner state. The moment you feel yourself to be something, you call it forth, you breathe life into it, and the universe begins to organize itself around that impression. You cannot deceive this power. It does not respond to what you merely say you want. It responds to what you accept as real through feeling. You may repeat an affirmation 1,000 times, but if the feeling behind it is one of lack, doubt, or fear, then that feeling is the true prayer being offered. The law is exact. The answer is always in accordance with the feeling from which the question arose. There is no judgment in it, no moral scale. It simply reflects what you are. This is why awareness of feeling is everything. It is the compass by which you navigate the unseen world. When you choose to dwell in the feeling of already having, already being, already living the life you desire, you unlock the door to its physical expression. It is not about pretending, it is about embodying. Feeling creates the atmosphere where the desired state becomes natural, familiar, and therefore inevitable. The outer world must follow, because the inner state is the seed, and the seed carries the pattern of the fruit within it. To feel is to create. To feel is to speak in the language of the infinite. When you quiet the noise of reason, when you silence the doubts of the outer senses and descend into the sanctuary of feeling, you commune with the deepest level of self, with the divine presence that has never left you. And in that communion, the creative act is set in motion. Not with struggle, but with stillness. Not with striving, but with surrender to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Time is an illusion of fulfillment. It appears to separate desire from manifestation, but in truth, it is only the unfolding of what already exists. The moment a desire is accepted within, fully assumed, felt and embodied, it is finished in the invisible. What follows in the realm of time is not creation, but revelation. Time is the stage upon which the unseen becomes seen, the bridge by which the eternal steps into form. But the fulfillment itself is not delayed. It is already complete in the higher dimension of consciousness. To the senses, time appears linear. First you desire, then you wait, then perhaps it arrives. But to the creative power within, there is no waiting. There is only the now, the eternal now, where all things are. When you accept something as true in imagination, when you feel the reality of it inwardly, you enter into the state where it exists. You are not waiting for it to come. You are aligning with what has already been created in the unseen. Time merely arranges itself to bring what is finished into visible sequence. This is why inner certainty is so powerful. The one who knows, who assumes, who lives inwardly in the end, does not measure by clocks or calendars. They do not grow anxious with delay, because they understand that the delay is not denial, it is preparation, orchestration, alignment. The outer world needs its cues and props, but the inner reality is already alive, just as a seed contains the full image of the tree within it. Your assumption contains the full expression of its result. Time is the gentle unfolding of that seed into form. You do not speed it up by effort, nor do you delay it by silence. You either sustain the inner state or you abandon it. And when you sustain it, when you dwell in the feeling, when you persist in the knowing, time becomes irrelevant. Things begin to move, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, but always in accordance with your sustained belief. Time bends around the intensity of your assumption. What should take years may take days, and what appears stuck may dissolve in an instant, because time is not master over fulfillment, it is servant to it. The illusion of time dissolves in the presence of deep inner conviction. When you walk by the unseen, when you live from the end, the world adjusts itself accordingly. Not because you made it happen by force, but because it was already yours, and time simply delivered what consciousness had already claimed. You are the operant power. There is no power outside of you that determines the course of your life. No external force, no fate, no distant deity decides your destiny. You alone, through your awareness, through your imagination, through your assumptions, are creating your experience moment by moment. The world responds to your inner state, not to what you wish for passively, but to what you claim and embody consciously. Your power does not lie in effort, but in awareness. Awareness of being. You are not a victim of circumstance. Circumstance is a reflection, an echo, a shadow of the beliefs and assumptions you hold. When you shift your state, the world must follow. When you persist in a new identity, life bends around that self-concept. It may seem that conditions and people change independently, but they do so only in response to the pattern you have established within. You do not have to convince anyone or seek permission. You only need to become the one who already has, already is, already lives the life you desire. This power is not something to be earned. It is already yours. You are using it every day, whether knowingly or unknowingly. Every time you say, I am, every time you accept something as true about yourself, every time you feel something as real, you are activating this creative power. The question is not whether it works, it always works. The question is, are you using it deliberately with purpose, or are you allowing old patterns and beliefs to direct it unconsciously? No one is doing anything to you. The outer world is not the source, it is the result. The cause is within, and the power that causes is your own assumption. The moment you truly accept this, you step into freedom. You no longer beg, plead, or struggle. You claim, you assume, you feel, and you rest in the knowing that your world is forming itself from the blueprint you provide. There is no need to look outside for signs of change. Be the change, and the signs will follow. You do not have to wait to feel empowered. You are the operant power now. The creative law does not respond to passivity, it responds to conviction. The world cannot help but yield to the being you dare to embody. As you revise your assumptions, as you control your imagination, as you persist in the unseen, you begin to experience the visible transformation of your world, not by chance, but by law. Not by force, but by faith. The same power that sustains the universe flows through your awareness, and it waits only for your direction. Let the old world die. Let it crumble, not with fear or resistance, but with quiet understanding that it has served its purpose. The life you have known, the identity you have worn, the patterns you have lived. These were born from past assumptions, sustained by past beliefs. They were reflections of a state that no longer serves the truth of who you are becoming. When you dare to assume a new reality, when you enter into a new state of being, the former things begin to dissolve. This is not loss, it is resurrection. The old world may protest, it may echo back your former beliefs in one last display, it may try to tempt you into believing in the reality of its shadows, but do not be moved. It is not dying to harm you, it is fading because you no longer sustain it with belief. What was once fixed begins to bend. What once felt permanent begins to soften. The people, places, and conditions that match the old state begin to fall away, not out of punishment, but out of alignment. They no longer belong to the reality you have chosen. This transition may feel unfamiliar. You may feel moments of uncertainty as the old dissolves and the new is not yet fully formed. But this is the sacred space between death and birth, the silence between chapters, the stillness that precedes creation. Honor it, trust it. You are not losing anything essential. You are shedding what you no longer need. You are releasing the echo of an old assumption to embrace the clarity of a new one. The outer world is always catching up to your inner transformation. And as you persist in the new, the former things will vanish of their own accord. You do not need to fight the old or fix it. Let it die in peace. Stop feeding it with attention, with emotion, with fear. The more you turn your gaze inward and dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled, the less power the old world holds. Its forms dissolve, not because you attacked them, but because you transcended them. And in their place, new expressions begin to emerge, effortlessly, naturally, in perfect harmony with the new state you now occupy. This is the rhythm of creation. Assume the new, and let the old fall away. It may seem like a death, but it is the beginning of life. And what is born from this process carries the fragrance of your new identity. Let the old world die, and do not look back. You have outgrown it, and something greater now awaits your sustained attention. This very moment is your confirmation. Not tomorrow, not someday, not when the evidence shows itself, but now. The mere fact that you are hearing these words, feeling this stirring within, sensing that invisible nudge, this is the sign. You asked for proof, for clarity, for assurance that your desire was heard, that your imagination holds weight. And here it is. The universe speaks in subtle echoes, not always through thunder, but through stillness, through resonance, through the truth that vibrates in the depths of your being. This moment is not random, it is ordered. It is a reflection of the state you have moved into. You do not need more validation. The feeling you carry right now, the knowing rising within you, is the evidence of things not seen. Trust it. The world may still look the same, but the shift has already occurred within. And the inner shift is the only shift that matters. The outer world is but a delayed mirror. The moment you assumed your desire is true, something moved. Something real was planted, and what has been planted must grow. This moment is the unfolding of your assumption. The world around you is rearranging itself, though you may not yet see the full picture. Do not wait for the world to give you permission to believe. Believe and the world will follow. Do not postpone your confidence until something changes. Confidence is the change. The one who knows this truth walks with certainty, even in silence. You do not need thunderous signs or visible applause. You need only your inner agreement. And that agreement has already been made, or you would not be here now, receiving this. Nothing is missing, nothing is delayed. This moment is the confirmation you asked for. Hold it, own it, let it root itself in your consciousness. You have moved into a new state, and this moment is the evidence. It carries the energy of alignment, the vibration of fulfillment. Treat it as sacred, because it is. It is the sign that you are on the right path, not because something external told you so, but because the internal reality is already shifted. Now walk in it. Speak from it. Think from it. Let this very moment be the turning point, where you no longer question, no longer search, no longer wait. The confirmation has come. It is here. It is now. To impress the subconscious with living belief is to plant a seed in the fertile soil of your deepest being. A seed that will grow regardless of outer circumstance because it has taken root in the unseen foundation of your consciousness. The subconscious is not swayed by casual wishes or fleeting thoughts. It responds only to what is impressed upon it with feeling, with persistence, and with the authority of assumption. It is like a faithful servant, carrying out without question the orders it receives from the state you hold within. Living belief is not mere intellectual agreement. It is a state of being that saturates your entire mind and body. It is felt as reality, accepted as fact, and maintained without hesitation. When you hold a belief as living, you are not pretending or hoping, you are knowing. This knowing forms a clear, unshakable impression on the subconscious, and that impression becomes the blueprint from which your external world will be fashioned. The subconscious cannot distinguish between what is imagined vividly and what is experienced physically. It treats both as commands to be fulfilled. To impress the subconscious, you must return again and again to the feeling of your desire fulfilled. Repetition is not about chanting words. It is about immersing yourself in the sensation of the end result. Live quietly, privately, in the state where your wish is already accomplished. Let this feeling permeate your thoughts, your actions, your very posture. The subconscious accepts this state as reality and moves all parts of your being toward its fulfillment. Resistance fades, doubts dissipate, and new paths open as the inner world aligns with this living belief. This process requires patience and faith. The subconscious does not act instantaneously, but its work is sure and exact. It gathers resources, orchestrates events, attracts people and opportunities, all in perfect harmony with the impression it has received. Nothing is random. Everything is ordered according to the belief it carries. The clearer and more persistent your living belief, the more direct and unmistakable the manifestation. Impressing the subconscious is the essence of creation. It is the silent conversation you carry with yourself beneath the surface, the foundation upon which all reality is built. When you master this art, you no longer react to circumstance, you shape circumstance from the inside out. Your belief becomes the lens through which the world appears, and your world becomes the reflection of that belief. Remember that the power to create your reality rests always within you. Every assumption you hold, every feeling you embrace, and every moment you claim as your own is part of a sacred dance between your inner world and the outer manifestation. Trust this process, for the universe is always responding, always aligning, and always confirming your deepest desires. Walk boldly in this truth, knowing that you are the creative force shaping your destiny. Thank you for allowing these words to reach you in this very moment. May they serve as a reminder and a catalyst for the magnificent reality you are destined to live.